Welcome to Mindset Matters Book Club YouTube channel. Please subscribe and like to hear new book summaries. Today, we're doing a deep dive into a skill that is, well, I think it's just critical for getting by in the world. Understanding the language that we don't actually speak.
Yeah, it's basically the operating manual for the human being sitting right across from you.
Absolutely. And our whole focus today is on this incredible book, What Everybody is Saying, an ex-FBI agent's guide to speed reading people. It's by Joe Navarro, a former counterintelligence officer, and Dr. Marvin Karlins.
And, what makes Navarro's whole perspective so powerful is where it comes from. He wasn't some academic who decided to study this.
Right.
He was forced into it. He came to the U.S. when he was 8 years old, a Cuban exile. Couldn't speak a word of English.
Wow, I can't even imagine how isolating that must have been.
Totally. So he had to figure out how to navigate his new world, and the only language he could rely on was, nonverbal behavior. He learned to see the human body as this living billboard, just constantly broadcasting what people were really thinking and feeling.
That's an amazing origin story. It's necessity driving mastery. And he started picking up on these tells almost immediately, right?
Instantly. It was about survival for him. He figured out really quickly that people who were friendly, who weren't a threat, they'd do this little eyebrow flash when they saw him.
Just a little lift?
Yeah, a quick arch. It's a sign of recognition, of openness. But the people who were unfriendly or, suspicious, they'd squint just a tiny bit.
And that little squint, that's the limbic brain trying to literally block out something it doesn't like.
Exactly. It's a tiny physical act that reveals a huge emotional truth. And that's really the core lesson of the whole book.
So let's talk about the scope of this silent language, because it's not a small part of our communication.
Oh, not at all.
Yeah.
I mean, research puts it at somewhere between 60 and 65% of all our interpersonal communication.
Yeah.
And that's everything. Facial expressions, gestures, posture, how we touch people, even our tone of voice.
And in some situations, that percentage goes way, way up.
It does. I mean, think about moments of true intimacy, like lovemaking. It's pretty much 100% nonverbal communication. Your body doesn't lie in those moments. And that's why these tells, as Navarro calls them, are so important. They're often more honest than our words.
Okay, so let's dig into that. Why should we trust the body more than the words? I mean, we're all taught to listen to what people say.
Well, it comes down to control. We think about our words, we craft them, we build a narrative. But our body, especially the parts controlled by our more primitive brain, they just react.
They're unfiltered.
Completely. A slight tremor in the hand, a foot that suddenly points to the door. Those signals bypass our conscious brain. They're the truth leaking out.
The book has some just incredible stories about this. The one that really stood out to me was the rape investigation in Arizona.
That is a chilling one. And it's such a perfect example of the conscious and unconscious mind at war. So the suspect is being interviewed. He's calm, he's cool, he has a story that makes perfect sense.
A rehearsed story.
Totally rehearsed. He says, I went down the road, Cotton, I turned left, and I walked straight home.
But
as he says the word left, his hand, it makes a little gesture to the right.
Oh, wow.
And to the right was exactly where the crime scene was. His words were the lie. His hand told the truth. And that tiny contradiction, that lack of sync between his words and his body, that's what broke the case open.
The body really does speak louder. And it's not just a skill for the FBI, right? This language is universal.
It is. Navarro tells this great story about a physician in Texas. This doctor was a big poker player, and he went to a seminar on reading tells at the poker table.
So spotting bluffs, that kind of thing.
Exactly. But then he started applying what he learned to his medical practice.
And it worked.
It worked perfectly. He wrote to Navarro just amazed. He said the same nonverbal cues, little shift in posture that signals confidence or a self-soothing gesture when a tough topic comes up, they were showing up in his examination room.
So he could tell when patients were maybe not being totally honest about their symptoms?
Or when they were uncomfortable, or when they genuinely felt good about their prognosis. It just proved that the limbic brain speaks the same language, whether you're holding a royal flush or you're talking about your health.
Okay, so if we want to learn this language, we have to start with the basics. Navarro lays out 2 commandments for being a good observer. It's not passive.
Not at all. Commandment 1 is, be a competent observer. And that sounds easy, but it's an active skill. It means you have to consciously pay attention. You have to notice how people behave normally, what their baseline is, before you can spot any changes.
The book calls most of us observation impoverished.
And we are. We're so overloaded with information that we filter most of it out. That's why people get blindsided by things, a divorce, getting fired. They say, I had no idea, but the signs were probably there all along.
They just weren't seeing them.
They weren't looking. It reminds me of that famous gorilla suit study.
Oh, right. The basketball one.
Yeah, they asked students to count how many times a team passed a basketball. And because they were so focused on that one task, half of them, fully half, didn't even see a man in a full gorilla suit walk into the middle of the game, beat his chest, and walk out.
It's a classic example of inattentional blindness. You only see what you're looking for.
Exactly. So to be a good observer, you have to widen your focus. Use all your senses.
Yeah.
Navarro even talks about using his sense of smell, picking up on lingering cigarette smoke as a sign that someone might have been where they weren't supposed to be.
So once you've trained yourself to actually look, there's commandment 2, observe in context. A gesture doesn't mean anything in a vacuum.
This is so important. A behavior has to be interpreted based on the situation. Let's take a job interview. A candidate comes in and they're nervous, sweaty palms, a little shaky.
Yeah.
Is that a sign of deception?
No, that's normal. That's the baseline for a stressful situation.
Exactly. That's the context. But let's say they start to relax. They get comfortable. And then you ask one specific question. Why did you leave your last job? And suddenly, boom, the sweaty palms are back. They're shifting in their seat.
That's the tell.
That's the tell. The behavior is the same. Nervousness, but the sudden change in response to a specific stimulus is what's significant. It tells you where the sore spot is.
Okay, so now we know how to look. Let's talk about what we're seeing. And this all starts in the brain, right? The honest part of the brain.
It all comes down to the limbic brain. This is the ancient, primitive part of our brain. It sits underneath the neocortex, which is our thinking, planning, rational brain.
The lizard brain.
The lizard brain. And it does one thing, it reacts instantly, reflexively. Its only job is to keep you alive.
And because it's so fast, it's honest.
It's the most honest part of you. It doesn't have time to lie. Your thinking brain, your neocortex can say, stay calm. But if your limbic system senses a threat, it's already flooding your body with adrenaline. Your heart rate is up. You can't consciously stop it.
The story of the Millennial Bomber is such a powerful example of that.
It really is. This was back in 1999. Ahmed Rissam was trying to cross into the U.S. from Canada. His plan was to bomb LAX airport. He was trying to act cool and casual.
But his body betrayed him.
His limbic system was screaming. A customs officer noticed he was just overwhelmingly nervous. He was sweating profusely, breathing really fast and shallow. It was a full-blown, uncontrollable limbic alarm reaction.
And that officer's observation, just noticing that physiological response, probably saved hundreds of lives.
It absolutely did. It shows you the power of seeing what the body is saying, even when the person is trying to project something totally different.
That alarm reaction brings us to the core of nonverbal behavior, the famous 3 Fs: freeze, flight, and fight.
Yep, these are our ancient hardwired survival programs. They dictate how we react to danger, and they still show up in our modern lives every single day.
Let's start with freeze. In the wild, this makes a lot of sense.
It's all about avoiding detection. Movement attracts predators. So if our ancestors sensed a lion nearby, the first instinct was to hold perfectly still, become part of the scenery.
And how does that translate to, say, an office meeting?
You'll see someone become suddenly unnaturally still when they're confronted with something they don't like. They might even hold their breath for a second. Or you'll see it in their feet. They'll lock their ankles around the legs of their chair, literally rooting themselves to the spot.
The book also talks about the turtle effect.
Yeah, this is a really sad but powerful one. It's when someone raises their shoulders up toward their ears and drops their head down, like a turtle pulling into its shell. It's a subconscious attempt to make yourself smaller, to hide.
You see that when someone's feeling ashamed or losing confidence.
You do. And tragically, you see it a lot in abused children. They're trying to become invisible to the threat.
So if freezing isn't an option, the limbic brain moves to flight.
The flight response. You want to create distance from the threat. Now, you can't just get up and run out of a boring meeting.
As much as we might want to.
Huh, right. So we do it in smaller ways. We lean away from someone we don't like. We turn our feet or our torso toward the door. We even create little barriers.
Like putting a purse or a laptop on your lap between you and the other person.
Exactly. Or we engage in blocking behaviors with our face. We might close our eyes for a beat too long after hearing something we dislike, or rub our eyes. It's the brain trying to physically block out unwanted information.
And if freezing and fleeing don't work, there's the last resort: fight.
The fight response. This is when fear turns into aggression, the last-ditch effort to survive. In the modern world, it's not usually physical, but the body still prepares for it.
So puffing out the chest, taking up more space.
Absolutely. Getting in someone's personal space. But there's one tell that Navarro highlights as a major warning sign that things are about to get physical.
And what's that?
The act of removing clothing during a confrontation. Taking off a hat, a jacket, even just unbuttoning a shirt. It's a primal signal. The body is getting ready for a physical altercation, freeing itself from restrictions. He says when he sees that, he knows a punch is about to be thrown.
So these 3 Fs create a lot of internal stress, and the body has a way of dealing with that, which brings us to pacifying behaviors.
Right. All nonverbals can basically be sorted into 2 camps. Comfort or discomfort. The limbic brain is always trying to get back to a state of comfort.
And when it's stressed, it uses these pacifying behaviors to self-soothe.
They're automatic. You don't even know you're doing them. They're like an adult's version of sucking your thumb, chewing on a pen, playing with your hair, adjusting your tie. These are all little actions that stimulate nerve endings and release calming endorphins.
The book puts a lot of emphasis on neck touching. Why is that specific area so important?
Well, the neck is packed with nerve endings. Touching or stroking your neck, especially the sides or the back, stimulates the vagus nerve, which actually helps to slow your heart rate down. It's a built-in tranquilizer.
And there's a difference in how men and women do it.
There is. Men tend to do it more robustly, maybe grabbing the back of their neck. Women very often will touch or cover the little dip at the base of their throat.
The suprasternal notch.
The suprasternal notch. Covering that vulnerable spot is a huge tell for insecurity, stress, or fear. It's a very honest, very primal, protective gesture.
Another great one from the book is the leg cleanser.
Ah, yes. I love this one because it's so common but almost always missed. It's when someone, usually under a table, slides their hands down their thighs as if they're wiping them off.
What's that doing?
2 things. 1, it's drying sweaty palms, which is a classic stress response.
Here.
And 2, the friction is a way to pacify, to burn off nervous energy.
And it's a great way to pinpoint the exact moment of stress.
The book has a perfect example. A job applicant is doing great in an interview. Polished, confident. Then the interviewer mentions something about people misusing social media. And under the table, the applicant does a quick, hard leg cleanse. Just once. The interviewer noticed it, checked the guy's Facebook page later, and found all sorts of problematic stuff. The leg cleanse was a nonverbal confession.
So the key is to link the pacifier to what was just said or done.
Always. The rule is, the greater the stress, the more intense the pacifying behavior.
Right.
A little stress might be a light touch to the face. A lot of stress is a full-on neck rub.
Okay, this brings us to what Navarro says is the most honest part of the body. The part we should watch first. Our feet and legs.
The feet are the winners of the honesty contest, every time. And the reason is simple. They're the furthest away from our conscious thinking brain. They're also evolutionarily primed for survival. They had to be ready to run or kick at a moment's notice.
So our brain just isn't as good at controlling them or making them lie.
Not at all. Navarro's method is to read a person from the ground up. Start with the feet, then the torso, then the arms, and read the face last of all.
So what are our feet telling us? Let's start with a positive one. Happy feet.
Happy feet are a dead giveaway for positive erosion. It's when someone is bouncing, wiggling, or tapping their feet with excitement. The classic example is the poker player with a killer hand. His face is a perfect stone-cold mask.
But under the table, his feet are going crazy.
They're having a party. His limbic system is already celebrating the win. And even if you can't see the feet, sometimes you can see a little vibration in their shoulders or their shirt from all that energy.
We have to be careful not to confuse that with just being impatient, though.
Right. Impatience is more of a nervous, twitchy jiggle that often gets faster. Think of students waiting for the bell to ring. Happy feet feel more buoyant, more joyful.
And feet also show our intentions, especially our intention to leave.
Oh, absolutely. If someone wants to get out of a conversation, their feet will often start pointing toward the nearest exit. Their upper body might be turned toward you, being polite, but their feet are saying, I'm ready to bolt.
And if they're sitting down, there's the knee clasp.
Yes, the knee clasp. When someone puts both hands on their knees, as if they're about to push themselves up, the meeting is over.
Even if they're still talking.
Even if they're still smiling and talking. Their body is telling you, we're done here. It's a very clear signal to wrap it up.
The book also talks about gravity-defying feet.
When we feel good, we feel light, we feel up. And our feet show that. We might rock up onto the balls of our feet or point our toes upward. It's a sign of excitement or hearing good news. It's something you almost never see in people who are clinically depressed.
What about leg crossing? Is that a defensive posture?
That's a common myth. Navarro says leg crossing is actually a high comfort display. Think about it. When you cross your legs, you're off balance. You can't run or fight effectively. So you only do it when you feel safe and secure.
And when two people do it together, mirroring each other.
That's a fantastic sign of rapport. It's called isopraxism. It means both people feel comfortable and connected.
On the other hand, what about when legs are used to show dominance?
That's the leg splay. Spreading the legs wide apart, whether you're standing or sitting, it's a territorial display. It says, this is my space, or I'm ready for a confrontation. You'll never see someone getting ready for a serious argument with their legs crossed.
And then there's the opposite, the foot freeze.
Right back to the freeze response. When someone is under a lot of stress or maybe hiding something, their feet will suddenly stop moving. They might turn their toes inward or lock their feet around the legs of the chair. It's a very strong signal of insecurity or anxiety.
Okay, so from the most honest part of the body, let's move up to the torso, arms, and hands. These are a bit more about status and protection.
For sure. The torso holds all our vital organs, so the limbic brain is obsessed with protecting it. That's why we do the torso shield.
Which is so... just crossing our arms.
Crossing your arms is the classic one. But it can also be holding a book or a backpack against your chest, or even just buttoning your jacket. It's creating a barrier when you feel uncomfortable or threatened.
And the opposite of that would be the torso bow.
Exactly. Bending at the waist is a universal sign of respect or deference. It's making yourself smaller. The book has that great story about General MacArthur and a young Dwight Eisenhower.
Yeah, Eisenhower would automatically bow and back out of his office.
It wasn't a conscious choice. It was his body's automatic, nonverbal response to a person he perceived as being of much higher status.
The torso can also be used aggressively, though.
Absolutely. The torso splay leaning back, taking up a ton of space, is a dominance display. And puffing out the chest, that's pure animal kingdom stuff. It's making yourself look bigger and more intimidating.
Okay, let's talk arms. What did they tell us?
The arms are a great barometer for mood. When we're happy and confident, our arm movements are big, loose, gravity-defying. When we're worried or insecure, our arms stay close to our body. They're restrained.
What about that stance where people hold their arms behind their back? The regal stance.
That's a high-status signal. It communicates confidence and authority. You're exposing your whole vulnerable front side, which you only do when you feel completely in charge of your territory. It also sends a don't touch message.
And then there's the most obvious territorial display. Arms akimbo.
Hands on the hips. It instantly makes you look bigger and more assertive. It's a universal sign that says, I'm standing my ground, or we have a problem here.
And the thumbs make a difference, right?
They do. Thumbs pointing back is more authoritarian, more dominant. Thumbs pointing forward is a little softer, more inquisitive or concerned.
And for seated dominance, there's the hooding effect.
Oh, yeah. Leaning back, lacing your fingers behind your head, elbows out wide. It's like a cobra flaring its hood. It screams, I own this place. I'm in charge.
But the real insight comes when that hood collapses.
That's the tell. The book's example of the SWAT commander is perfect. He's briefing his team, totally confident, in the full hooding position. Then someone asks a question he's not prepared for.
And instantly, the hood just deflates. His arms come down, his hands drop between his knees. His confidence vanished in a second. You see the shift from high status to high stress in real time.
Okay, what about the hands? What's the biggest high confidence signal from our hands?
That would be steepling. Touching the fingertips of both hands together to form a kind of church steeple. You see it all the time with CEOs, lawyers, doctors, people who are very confident in what they're saying.
And if that steeple suddenly collapses into interlaced fingers?
That's confidence turning into doubt or anxiety. And the tighter they squeeze or rub their hands, the more distressed they are.
Thumbs are a big deal too.
Huge. Thumbs up or thumbs sticking out of your pockets. That's a gravity-defying display of high status and confidence.
But thumbs in the pockets is the opposite.
The total opposite. Thumbs tucked into pockets with the fingers hanging out is a major low confidence tell. It says, I'm insecure, I'm not sure of myself.
Yeah.
You just don't see powerful, confident leaders standing like that. All right, this brings us to the trickiest part of the body to read. The face. Navarro warns us to be really careful here.
Extremely careful. We learn to lie with our faces from the time we're toddlers. Smile for grandma, don't make that face. It's under so much conscious control that it's the least reliable part of the body. You have to read it in a cluster with other signals.
So what are some of the more honest facial cues, the ones that are harder to fake?
Anything to do with eye blocking. So closing your eyes for a moment too long or rubbing them after hearing something, that's the limbic brain trying to block out something it doesn't like. It's so primal that even people born blind do it when they hear bad news.
So if someone's squinting at a document, it might not be their eyesight.
It could be that their brain is struggling with or dislikes the words on the page.
And pupil dilation, we can't control that.
Nope. Our pupils get wider when we see something we like or find interesting. It's a very honest signal of a positive internal state.
What about eye contact? We're always told liars can't look you in the eye.
That's one of the biggest myths out there. In fact, liars often overcompensate with too much eye contact. More importantly, looking away during a conversation is often a comfort display.
The comfort display.
Yeah, your brain is just trying to reduce visual input so it can focus on thinking or recalling information. It's a natural cognitive process, not a sign of deception.
Okay, so what do we do when we see mixed signals on the face? A smile, but with tension in the jaw.
This is Navarro's golden rule. Always side with the negative emotion.
Why the negative?
Because the negative emotion, the flash of fear, the slight lip curl of disgust, that's the first honest reaction from the limbic brain. The smile, the social mask, that comes a split second later from the thinking brain. The first reaction is the true one.
Which brings us to deception itself, and the book is very clear. There is no Pinocchio effect.
I can't stress this enough. Even FBI agents are only right about 50% of the time when trying to spot a lie. Your goal should never be to spot a lie. Your goal is to spot discomfort. That's it.
Because if you look for lies, you'll mistake normal stress for guilt.
And that's a huge problem. People get nervous when they're being questioned, even if they're innocent. That nervousness looks a lot like the signs we associate with lying. So you have to look for patterns, not single cues.
So what are those patterns that might suggest deception?
Two main things: lack of emphasis and lack of synchrony.
Okay, what's lack of emphasis?
When people are telling the truth, especially when they're passionate, they use their whole body, they gesture, they raise their eyebrows, they might bang the table. Liars don't have that same emotional commitment to their story. So their delivery is often flat, weak, with very little body movement.
And lack of synchrony.
That's when the body and the words don't match up, or they're delayed. An honest person shakes their head as they say no. Someone who's being deceptive might say no, and then their head shake follows a beat later. Or, even worse, they might be saying no while giving a tiny, almost imperceptible nod, yes.
And what about the hands when someone is trying to convince you they're innocent?
An honest, assertive statement of innocence is usually made with the palms facing down. It's a confident, grounded gesture. If someone is pleading, "You have to believe me," with their palms turned up.
That's a supplicating position.
Exactly. It's the posture of begging. They're asking you to believe them rather than confidently asserting their truth. It signals a lack of belief in their own statement.
This has been wow. It really does change how you look at every single interaction. Let's just quickly recap the big takeaways here.
First and foremost, the feet and legs are your best source of truth. Start there. The honesty of the body decreases as you go up.
And understand that it's the limbic system running the show with its freeze, flight, and fight responses, and that it uses pacifying behaviors like neck touching to deal with the stress that creates.
And remember, this takes practice. It's active observation. You need to establish a baseline and context, and you have to look for clusters of behavior, not one single tell.
I feel like we now have this toolkit to process both what's being said and what's being shown. It's like learning a second language.
It is. It lets you see the whole rich, complex tapestry of human experience. You get to see people as they really are, not just as they're trying to appear.
So here's the final thought for you to take away. If our bodies are fundamentally unable to hide our true feelings, if they automatically signal our fear or happiness through our feet and our posture, how does that change the way you judge silence in other people? And what assumptions do you need to stop making about the people you meet every single day? Thanks for diving in with us. We'll see you next time.